some questions, so we'll take some questions.
Superintendent, one of the discussions with the rebuilding or of Midway Elementary, I guess I questioned the need. I don't question perhaps the need for the new elementary, but to tear down a perfectly good building to make a bigger one, I guess I question that. I remember how old, and granted it should have been probably replaced a lot sooner, but the old Central Elementary served way past the time that Midway's been there. What thoughts or considerations have been given to that?
Well, we had an interesting experience with the citizens of Midway when we did some rebounding recently as we opened up our two new schools and worked with the boundaries on the two middle schools. As you all know, we went from one middle school to two for the first time in this valley. And we got a real strong message from the citizens of Midway that they did not want their students bused to Heber to go to elementary school. And we, after some good discussion with them and them approaching their board member, and Mr. Hanson met with several folks in homes and at the school district, there's certainly something about your neighborhood school. And folks like to send their kids to elementary school, to their neighborhood school. The school in Midway will not hold all of the students in Midway for much longer. We've got them packed into every closet, nook, and cranny over there right now. We have an opportunity for the property on the other side of Mitchie Lane, which is owned by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We approached them. That ground wasn't for sale. We didn't see it on the internet or a sign hanging on it. We simply approached the church and we asked them if we could buy that property for a future site. They liked that property and they weren't really interested in just selling it to us. They did tell us that if we would trade for the land at the current school site that currently houses the school, that they would be interested in a trade because that property is adjacent to some other property they own. So really what it came down to is the current site, and which includes the current Midway Elementary, was used in as a bargaining chip to secure the new site on the other side of Mitchie Lane. And as you know, for those of you that have been in our schools, we have a really good floor plan, a very educationally sound floor plan that we use. Most of our other elementary schools are built to that specification. And so it made sense for our board to go ahead and do the land swap and put a new up-to-date school that mirrors Daniels Canyon Elementary and Old Mill Elementary on that site. And it will house all of the students in Midway, at least for a number of years, in our opinion, and keep the Midway kids in what they consider their Midway their neighborhood school. So that's how that came about. I think that's my best answer for that question, Kendall. That's kind of how we arrived at that.
I just want to add to that. Currently, we have 2 portables that house 4 classrooms. And there's limited amount of space to add more portables or to add onto that building and still have fields for the students to play on. And parking is an issue at that school also.
Yeah, so, I think they continue to use Midway Elementary if there was another site to build, even in Midway, a second elementary. I understand to keep them there. I agree with the local elementary idea. I don't know how much you saved on the land swap, but it seems that's a very, I mean, it's got parts that are only 2 or 3 years old in add-on. I hate to see it tore down when we might need it in the future. But I don't know what costs.
Well, as you know, Midway is a hard place to purchase property for a public entity right now. And as we've looked for high school sites, we've become painfully aware of land costs, and for us to be able to pick up this this 12 acres on the other side of Mitchie Lane and do it for a much reduced cost because of the trade. We saw it as a chance to upgrade that school, and that's the direction we went, and we stand behind that decision. We think it's a sound decision.
So just elaborate a little bit on that. To call Midway Elementary a perfectly sound school or a perfectly good school is inaccurate.
Well,
There's sewer issues there, there's issues with the cafeteria, so we would continue to dump money into Midway Elementary. I think there's a point at which you have to say, we're either going to continue at a high rate to put money into this, to make the seismic work, to make the sewer work, to make the cafeteria work, with the way that I think Midway's been added on to 3 times. The layout is not optimal. When it was built, the second edition, it wasn't built for an addition. And so it's just, I guess we don't see it that way as a good school to keep going.
Originally designed for 300 kids.
yeah, that said in the video.
And we just held off on a $500,000 renovation on the cafeteria because that was money we weren't willing to spend on a facility that doesn't have the shelf life for the next 5 years. And as the representative of Midway, it's real. I invite anybody to go into that school and spend some time with the children. It's not an ideal place to educate when you compare it to the other 2 buildings that are in the district. And it's a great long-term strategy. If you can imagine being a newly elected official, and then the first line of business is, oh, by the way, you have to get on a bus, Dutch Fields, and go to Heber Valley Elementary School. They weren't having that at all. And so when they questioned me, well, what's your plan? The plan was we have to build a new elementary school that can house everybody in Midway. Because Midway isn't considered a neighborhood, it's considered a community. And so we need to keep that whole community together. And the long-term plan to make that happen over the last 2 years was to identify a piece of property we could build a brand new school at. And that's what we're doing, is we're executing that 2-year plan at this point.
I just have to say a little something there. When I lived in Timber Lakes, and my kids were bused over to Heber Valley Elementary, remember Daniels went there, Charleston, I think it's part of Charleston. All of the east side of the valley went there. So I understand Midway's concerns, but we've dealt with this in the past. It's not like this is anything new. I feel like, we've had to live with those kind of situations in the past, even though we have busing for quite some distance.
Well, I get it. I grew up in Heber City. I live in Midway right now. It's a little different demographic over there. I love living there. However, they're very clear.
Well, I
on what
understand
they
that.
want. And so as a representative, I'm trying to help them with a long-term solution to that.
Heidi, I'm wondering if the difference would be, because you're right, we have to disperse, however, was there a school in Timber Lakes?
Oh, no.
So the difference is, right, that there's a school in the community, and that's would be, I think, a pretty big difference, right? There's already a school there, they want all their kids to go to the same school. But if I could, I think I've got some additional questions. Can we throw some more out? I don't want this to go on all night over just that one school, over just Midway Elementary. I do kind of tend to wonder, I agree with what Kendall's saying, I know if it's, I don't want to put a Band-Aid on a turd, so if it's really that bad and we have to build a new school, I hope we've really and truly considered the cost of, starting from scratch. I've had questions posed to me that I haven't been able to answer, and so I just wonder if I could throw out some of those. With the additional taxes that are being requested with the Truth in Taxation and that meeting next week, we have that. We just did a bond, not a bond, but an increase in taxes. We've got this one this year. We've got one planned basically for next year. And then when the new schools are built, clearly there will need to be additional monies to run and maintain those schools. So it's an awful lot of money that we are asking a very small community to pay for. And the analogy I make or think of is when I built my home, I wanted wool carpeting and grade A hardwood floors and granite countertops, and my budget couldn't afford that. So I got, Corian countertops and polyester carpet and grade C hardwood floors. So I'm just wondering if as a community, and we all want to work together, and, you know, somehow, I think when we ask questions, it's interpreted that maybe we're opposed or whatever. I hope nobody's feeling defensive. I simply would like to know how these taxes are going to be used, what's the end. I mean, we're looking at some really substantial increases, and already, 68% of our taxes go to the school. So, and I can't think of a better place. I want my kids educated. I want my grandkids educated. I want them to be able to support me in my old age. I'm all for that. But I'm just wondering, would, you know, polyester carpets be just as good and decrease our budgets? So I'm anxious to know how those additional taxes are going to be used that are being raised or going to be voted on next week.
Those are great questions, Mayor, and I think we're happy to stay here as long as you'd like and answer those. We, believe it or not, we have some more videos that address truth in taxation and tax rate and how it works and how it will affect our constituents. I might suggest that we stick to the school, the 2 new schools and the bond, and let's answer all those questions first, and then if we have time and the group wants to stick around, we can show you some more videos and we can answer all of your questions as it relates to truth in taxation as well. Is that fair enough?
Sure, I'll be happy to ask some questions about bond then. I feel like they are a little related, right? Because we're asking for an increase, and both these things are going to be pretty dramatic increases. So I'm curious. And then these questions were given to you guys, you know, yesterday. And if you haven't had a chance to research that or whatever, you can get back to me. But it's been brought to my attention about the Corner Canyon High School. It's our same floor plan, I understand, the same size school. They've opted to do a $27 million remodel as opposed to, what are we proposing, a $120 million new school? And connected to that question would be, we've only got 2 middle schools. As I understand it, it's usually, and thinking back on education with my children, 2 middle schools per high school approximately. So my question is, does a remodel make sense? And if we're going to build a whole new high school, then are we anticipating that we're going to be building 2 more middle schools?
Well, I think first of all, the assumption that 2 middle schools serves 1 high school would come from a larger district that has a philosophy of 3,500 to 4,000 students high schools, the districts that have over 10 high schools in the district, and that's how they choose to educate their high school students in a more urban area. Our school board, the history that we have in this county, and I would tell you that our school board would back this up from the messages that they're receiving from their constituents. The identity of the Heber Valley is not some mega high school. We don't want to be the largest high school in the state. And this is arguable. We know that some of you in the room possibly graduated from some of these large high schools and had a good experience. We believe that smaller high schools, and there's mountains of research to back this up, that smaller high schools give students better experiences. And smaller high schools to us, we would love to stay in more of the middle classifications as far as student size and student opportunity. You know, if we divided our high school today, we would still be 2 4A high schools. And I don't use 4A to equate it to athletics. I use 4A because it's all a classification that we can wrap our mind around. We will have a 6A high school in the very near future, which is the largest classification. And if we just move along like we are and add on, we're going to be in the same boat. You saw the pictures of what the Commons looks like at the class change. If we choose to add another $30 million of classrooms onto that building, we're gonna be one of these ultra large high schools and possibly eventually the largest high school in the state of Utah. We just continue with the growth that's taking place in Wasatch County. That's not who we believe we are. There's 2 districts that have followed the model that we're choosing to follow after. You saw it in the video. Cache County as well as Washington County, they worked very hard to continue to build a new high school when they have the population for a more medium-sized high school. And that is the decision that's been made. I've made the comment before in a public meeting that I'm a Wasatch graduate. It's rare for a superintendent to be a student from the district he's superintendent of. I'm very proud of that fact. I started here in kindergarten, and it is painful for me. And if you know me well, you know I'm not exaggerating one bit. It's painful for me to think about splitting Wasatch High School down the middle into two schools. But when we look at the opportunity for students, when we look at the better educational experience for students, we believe it's worth it. When I say we, I'm talking about these 4 or 5 board members right here that are talking to their constituents. We think that following that model and keeping a smaller, more personable experience is a better way to go. And one word, student opportunity. If your son is growing up right now with the dream of being on the high school football team, he's going to have a tough go of it. I'll just tell you that right now. Our school, when I went to Wasatch High, we begged kids to be in athletics. Now, we cut in almost every program. If your son is growing up with that dream and we build a new high school, we just double his chances. If your daughter wants to be the lead in the school play, we just doubled her chances with adding. And if you extrapolate that over the whole entire student body, the whole entire plethora of the dozens of extracurricular activities, of the 60, 75 plus clubs that we have at Wasatch High, we duplicate that, it comes down to student opportunity. And we believe, the school board believes, and we believe this community believes in a smaller high school setting. And we're going to work very hard to make sure it's a healthy, dynamic relationship between these two high schools if the voters choose to go in that direction. Yes.
You're talking about opportunity.
Student opportunity.
So student opportunity and possibly the extracurricular activities, but what about our educational opportunities? I understand that there were many AP classes that had only 15 students in there. When you divide this high school, how are you going to provide that same kind of education for those that want to take those AP classes when it might possibly be a small number? And you're going to find the teachers to be able to do that and pay the teachers to be able to do that.
Well, I'm going to tell you that with the size that our high school is right now, when I was the principal of Wasatch High when it was 1,300 students. I was the principal when we finished that building and we moved in there. And we were going through some very strong academic growth initiatives at the time. We tripled our AP opportunity for students in a school that size. You get an occasional AP class that's low in numbers. You do, but we commit to those things. There would be no less opportunity educationally for anybody in 2 schools that would be this 4A size. They would still be well over 1,000 students each. They would be comparable in size to the Wasatch High School that we first moved into, and we see it as a very positive educational experience. We know that students that participate in at least 2 extracurricular activities, and it certainly doesn't have to be sports, it can be in band or the school play or even in the mountain bike club. The students who participate in extracurricular activities do better academically. And we see the benefits of a smaller school, not just as it relates to extracurricular, but also in academics.
But I also know that it's very difficult to get teachers to come here because of the price of living here. And so you're going to be doubling the amount of teachers that you need to get.
Well, we actually
So how
will be
are we going to be able to fund that, and how are we going to be able to manage that, to be able to get those kinds of quality teachers to?
Well, think of it like this. If we have, we kind of went through this at the public meeting, and if we go back and revisit that, if we have, let's just say for round numbers, we have 10 English teachers right now. We won't need 10 English teachers at each of the new high schools. That number will drop. Will it be more? Will it be more than 10? Yes, it will. And it's definitely going to be at more of a cost to educate the number of students. I mean, the deeper you stack them, the cheaper it is to teach them. We know that. But is it best for them academically? Absolutely not. I'll read you a little blurb from the National Education Association. Some of the benefits of smaller schools include increased attendance, elevated teacher satisfaction, improved school climate. Further, meaningful relationships between students and teachers become easier to develop. More importantly, research shows smaller schools may promote substantially improved achievement, higher graduation rates. In addition, students find fewer opportunities to participate in extracurricular activities and clubs and other student leaderships experience as the student body grows. That's talking about much more than extracurricular activities. That's talking about an overall school experience. And we do run comprehensive high schools. And we are preparing our kids not only for the next level, whatever their post-secondary training might be, we're preparing them for life. And we feel like they're getting a much better experience in a smaller school. If we didn't, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. If we didn't believe firmly in this as educators and as a school board, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. We believe in that very strongly.
I really appreciate that there could be a philosophical difference here. And I guess my question, coming back to my new home analogy, is can we afford that? And if this is what the voters believe and agree with you and so forth, would it make sense to look at things like, okay, let's build a new high school, but we're going to share, and you guys, I'll look at you too, I mean, we're all in this together, right? Can we share our football field? Can we share some different amenities? You know, what are the things we can do to go from wool carpet to polyester carpet and still, my kids really like my house, so I still have a terrific family experience when they come there, but it's polyester carpet instead of wool. So do you see what I'm saying? I'm just curious if there's things like that that can be done to lessen the burden of...
Well, as far as sharing goes, we will share certain things that we can. We'll share, obviously, the aquatic center. There'll be a swim team at both high schools. They'll both use the same aquatic center. We'll share, there probably will not be a duplication in our junior ROTC program that we offer. We offer so many amazing experiences for our kids at Wasatch High, and we'll never apologize for that. ROTC, junior ROTC, there's only about 6 schools approved in the state of Utah that can offer that. Ours is through the Navy. It's a phenomenal program. It would not be duplicated. There'll be a few other things like that, and I think there'll be some things that kind of trend one way or the other to the 2 schools. But if you knew, and you know, there's people from the county here, if you understood the pressure that's put on every blade of grass that we own, you would know that duplication of fields is really not an option. As this valley continues to explode with growth, every blade of grass that Wasatch County School District owns is either used for school programs, junior programs, Little WASP programs, or county rec programs. And as soon as we build a new patch of grass, our phone's ringing. Can we get on there? We're adding lacrosse to this valley. We're adding this sport. We're doing rugby now. We're doing this. We're doing that. And you know what? It's awesome. Our kids should be busy. And they should be doing stuff after school. It keeps them out of trouble. It keeps them focused. And they're better students. And A, B, C, D, E, and all the above. But I will tell you that I think it would be a huge mistake for us not to duplicate our fields, our facilities, because as the students continue to flood in this school, we're going to increase by 350 students this year, of new students added to our population. How many teams is that? So I think I've made my point. I won't belabor it. I think there was one other question. I really think there's a misnomer about the carpets.
You don't like that analogy. Okay,
no, let me take that. and then I'll let you respond.
I want to comment too after.
Our new schools are built to last. Our new schools are built with the materials that can withstand the pressure from the students. And we're not trying to be opulent. We're not trying to build the Taj Mahal, as some have suggested. We are building schools like the current Wasatch High School that was opened in '09. With us, you know, we have a tour of elected officials, and I'd love to have every one of you follow us around for a day, which I know some of you have, and see what Wasatch High School looks like today. You know what it looks like? It looks like it's brand new. That's because the students take care of it, and it's because it's built with a split-face block down the hall that's almost indestructible. It's built with some up-to-date commercial tile floors that have a certain wax on them that when we wax them every summer, they look brand new. Some of the old school building material, like you would find at Midway Elementary, or that you would find at the old Timpanogos Middle School, that we now use as our West Campus, they don't hold up. They don't hold up to the wear and tear over the years. They don't hold up to the... So my take on this, and I believe the board agrees, is we're building schools that will stand the test of time. This new Wasatch High School, our new elementaries, Daniels Canyon Elementary, come walk through it. It should look just like it does now in 50 years, in 100 years. And those are the types of schools that we're building today. There's not one board member sitting here that wants to spend any extra money than we have to. This idea that the school district spends at will is ridiculous. These guys, and Keith Johansson, if I had $1 million, I'd give it to him. Because he's so tight, he can't even pay attention some days. He's so tight. No, that's a compliment. And the point is, this idea that we're building these opulent schools and we're using wool carpet over polyester. I'm sure the carpet we're using is polyester. I'm sure the carpet we're using is the carpet that the designers and the architects recommend because it wears the longest. I guarantee
And I
you that.
appreciate that. I'm certainly not trying to imply that I would want you to use minimal quality building
It wouldn't make
products.
sense.
My point that I was trying to make is just that as we look to this project, and I also would never imply that you were opulent or overdoing or anything. I was simply trying to say that this is an enormous amount of money for a very small community, and I would hope that we would look at every option that could help reduce some of the impact on our citizens. So please know that I'm not trying to imply that you would use secondary or less than good quality